Hi, everybody. Welcome to Writing, Rhetoric, and AI. This is Steve Krause. I'm the person teaching this class. Glad to have you here this semester. What I'm going to do is kind of like show you a slideshow. I have it linked down below to talk over some of the basics of the class. And then if you have any questions, and then I'll show you the website, the Canvas site. And then if you have any questions, you should post those below too. This isn't a required discussion. The one that's due, the other discussion that's due this first day, that is a required discussion where you introduce yourself. But I'll talk about all this stuff in just a second. Okay, I'm really glad to be here this semester. This is a special topics course, meaning that it is not a regular offering. It's not an offering that happens every semester. And in fact, the first time I taught this class for the first time was in fall. And usually I don't get a chance to have a redo with these special topics classes. Usually it's kind of a one and done kind of thing. But this semester I do. So hopefully I learned some stuff from last semester and we'll learn some more stuff together. As I say in the description, this is about exploring the relationship between writing, rhetoric, and artificial intelligence. And we'll talk about a whole bunch of different things having to do with that. But one thing I want to warn you about right off from the get-go is that this is a very quick-moving topic. So there could very easily be some changes in the readings and things like that as some new AI phenomenon develops. But everything that we're going to do in terms of the readings and those assignments are all available through the Canvas site. There's not a textbook. So you don't need to worry about that. You should have some sort of way, though, of either printing these readings out so you can take notes on them, or if you have like an iPad or something like that that you can download and you can highlight that way. You've got to do something, though, to engage with the reading. If some of the stuff that we're reading is going to be pretty complicated, and if you just kind of scroll by on the screen, you're not going to get it. So it really is worth it to do something to download that reading, things like that. One other thing I need to mention right off the bat here too, which is you're going to have to use AI in this class. That is, you're probably going to have to use ChatGPT or Claude, certainly Gemini, which you have for free through EMU. I mention this because I've had students as recently as last semester who basically were juniors and seniors who said, I have never used AI and I never want to use AI. I think it's evil. Okay, I understand that perspective. Hopefully that will become a little bit more nuanced as we go along this semester. But the thing is the only way you can learn about AI is by actually monkeying around with AI. So you're going to have to like actually use some of these tools as part of in some of these assignments. Okay, it's an online class. Obviously, it's an asynchronous class, meaning that we're never going to have a Zoom sort of thing. It's always going to be like this. But it's not a self-paced class. And you'll see what I mean when we start talking about the discussions and the assignments and things like that. The thing about, I've been teaching online for a long time now, and mostly just asynchronous, well before COVID, and mostly just asynchronously. And the thing about online classes is that they can work really well as long as everybody understands the limitations of them, right? So we have to find ways to communicate with each other, not face-to-face, and sometimes that's not as efficient as communicating face-to-face. So there's some issues with that. But the other thing about online classes is that it does provide us all a lot of freedom. Like I'm doing this in my house. You're probably doing this in your house too. So that's the sort of balancing act. Is how do you take advantages of the affordances of online classes that allows you to do things in different places and different times, and not at the same time, while making up for the sort of ways in which the communication can get kind of muddled when it's like that. Hopefully you'll see what I mean when we go along. I actually do have an online attendance policy, which basically is you've got to participate at least twice a week in the class discussions between Monday and Wednesday and between Wednesday and Friday. And if you don't, I'll count you virtually absent for that. Now, this usually isn't a problem, but the reason I have this policy is I've had students in the past who basically disappeared for a month and then wondered, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem with that is just like a face-to-face class, you have to be there. Under no circumstances will I accept I couldn't get onto the internet or my computer is broken as an excuse for not participating in the class. It's an online class. If you don't have reliable internet access or a reliable computer, you need to address that issue or maybe not take a class online. It's also a class where even though you can do it whenever you want, you still have to be here. So if you were to say to me, hey, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks in the back country and I won't have internet access, will that be a problem? Yeah, that'll be a problem. So you definitely don't want to do that. You got to check your email every single day. And I mean every single day. Okay. It's the only way I have to communicate with you individually. And I'll give you a really good example. This happened just last semester. There was a student who turned something in for one of the assignments, one of the Google Docs that this person did not share properly. And I emailed this person about a half dozen times over the course of a week saying, can you please change this? And I kept on warning them that I was deducting from their letter grade. And honestly, they did pass the class, but it was touch and go there simply because they didn't answer their email. Okay. So again, answer your email, check your email every single day. Stuff you need to do for the class. It's basically broken up into 3 chunks plus the graduate student part. Participation. A lot of the class is about participation in the discussions. There's 3 major writing projects that we'll talk about. And then there's a very simple opportunity for success final, meaning you have to take the final. It's not optional, but it is something that will be fairly easy as long as you do the other 2 things of participating in the discussions and the writing projects. This is a 400/500 level class, which means that we have some graduate students in here. And if you're a graduate student, you are also going to do an additional project, which is a book review, presentation, and essay. Now, here's how discussion works. The discussions are about the readings, the assignments for the class. Most of them are required. But this one, as an example, though, isn't. This is a discussion where I'm just presenting information. And so you only have to post here if you have some kind of question about the information that I am presenting. The other discussion that's due for today, where you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you think about AI, that's a required discussion. So that is one that I will grade, and the grading starts today. The key to participate in these discussions is you have to post on time and in the beginning of these discussions on Mondays or Wednesdays or Fridays, okay? Or Mondays to Wednesday, Wednesday to Friday. So when a discussion starts on Monday, you have to start, your first post needs to be sometime on that Monday, anytime during the 24 hours in that Monday. And then if this discussion starts on a Wednesday, it has to be sometime by that Wednesday, anytime. Now, in both cases, I will open up the discussions a little early. So you can get access to the discussions on noon the day before the discussions begin. And if you want to post, then you can. So you have a little bit of wiggle room that way. But you can't post late. If you post after the discussion time, it doesn't count towards the grade, okay? So you post, and then you won't see anybody else's post until you finish your post. Then when you finish your post, you'll see other posts, okay? After you post, you want to wait at least 4 hours until you respond to somebody else about to one of their posts. So you log in on Monday, you write your post, you come back later in the day, and then you see other people's posts, and then you respond to at least 1 or 2 or something like that. And then the next day you come back and you respond again. But all of your posts, for them to count towards the grade, have to be at least 4 hours apart, okay? The reason for that is because I don't want students to do what I would describe as post and go. Again, the idea with an online class is we're trying to replicate things that we would do in a face-to-face class, but we have to do them differently. If we were in a face-to-face class, we'd have 75 minutes together and we'd all be there and we'd have the opportunity to be exchanging and chatting and talking and giving our thoughts all at the same time. And we could very efficiently complete that in an hour and a half. In an online class, we don't have that. So what we do is we spread the discussion out over 3 days, okay? But in order to make that work, that means that you have to come back to the discussion over those 3 days. So if you post on a Monday to a discussion, and then you see other posts, and then you respond, boom, boom, to 2 other posts, and then you never come back to the discussion, that's kind of like showing up to class, saying something in the first 5 minutes, responding to listening to what other people have to say the next 5 minutes, and then just leaving the class. That's not the idea, okay? The other thing about starting on time is really important, because if you start after, like towards the end of the discussion, then it's kind of like showing up to class really, really late. So that's why showing up on time, starting on time is key, okay? The posts that you make should be short, discussion kind of oriented posts. You don't need to write a sort of mini essay, book review of whatever the reading is. We've all done the reading, hopefully. Your goal is to talk about the reading and give us what did you think about it, and to respond to what your peers had to say about it and things like that. Okay. Now, here's how I grade participation. It looks kind of complicated, but I swear it's not. Basically, if you post on time initially and then you respond to two or more of your classmates at least 4 hours apart over the next couple of days, you get an A. B is you're late, but you responded to of your peers 4 hours apart, or you only respond to one of your peers. A C is your post is late, or you really and respond to one of your classmates, or you post on time, but you don't respond to anybody. D means your post is late, you don't respond to anybody else, and F means you don't participate at all. Like I said, you'll get the hang of it, and I'll give you some guidance in terms of how this works in the first week or two, okay? So what I do then is I have there's the participation split up into two grades. They're each worth 125 points each, and I figure that out at around midterms, okay? The writing assignments. Now, this is going to be a longer discussion that we're going to have starting on Wednesday in terms of the details of what these assignments are. And when you look at the syllabus, you'll see a bit of a description as well. But basically, there's three large projects. The first one is the AI writing experiments reflection essay. And that's the one we'll start doing soonest and most directly in class, because it also involves your writing experiments will also be part of a class discussion. So we'll be doing that together. The other two assignments, the AI news updates and collaborative annotated bibliography website and report, it's a mouthful, and the AI research question essay are projects that you're going to do more independently and throughout the semester, but you'll see in the schedule that there's dates where you need to check in and do certain things and stuff like that, okay? All the essays that you do for the class that you hand in to me need to be completed in Google Docs. And moreover, they need to be done in a single Google document from beginning to end. In other words, when you sit down, you'll do other things and use other tools for the writing experiments reflection essay. You keep your own notes in different places, how you write prompts and stuff like that. But when you sit down to write the reflection essay for that first assignment, you're going to open up a Google Doc and from beginning to end, do everything that you're going to do in that Google Doc. The drafting process, the peer review process, the changes that you make before you hand it in to me. And also, that's the essay, the first essay, you'll have a chance to revise if you want to, any revisions for that. Now, I've been using Google Docs like this for a long time, well before AI stuff. The main reason why there's a few reasons why I use Google Docs like this. The first one is I think it's just a really useful software because it always works. It's available on any platform, wherever you're at, et cetera, as long as you can get online. It really facilitates discussion very, very well. And it's just easy to share. The other reason I like it is because of the document history that comes with Google Documents. Because what you can do with the document history is I can look at your work and I can see your process. Now, I've done this, like I said, well before AI, because it's a very useful tool for me to sit down, especially in a class like, say, freshman composition, or maybe students are waiting until the last minute to turn something, to do the work. And I can sit down and say, well, maybe one reason why this essay is like this is because you only spent 20 minutes on it before the period. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But it's also useful in any of these classes in terms of just trying to figure out how you put things together and stuff like that. It's also really, really important for me in terms of revisions, because I like to assign students and give students an opportunity to revise, but it's very hard to grade a revision because I don't commit your writing to memory. So what's nice about the version history is I can literally see, oh, this is the changes they made from when I made comments on it to after we talked about revision and things like that, okay? So that's really, really key. You got to start and you stick with the Google Documents. We're going to talk about MLA style, and so we have to use MLA style citation, and we'll talk about some of like that kind of stuff that how to cite things and how to incorporate evidence into things and stuff like that. For all these writing assignments, including the parts of the AI writing experiments where you're like writing posts about your experiments and such, and also the updates for the AI news updates, because those will be due at certain points. You got to pay attention to the due dates. If you're late on peer review for the essay assignment, I'm going to deduct a half letter grade from the final grade. And if you're late turning it into me, I'm going to deduct a half letter grade for every 72 hours it's late. Okay. And I'm also going to deduct a grade for the AI news projects and the AI research questions if you're not responding to those prompts ahead of time. You'll see what I mean by that. Okay. If you're a graduate student, you're going to need to do a book review presentation, and we'll talk about that. I believe there's 3 graduate students in this class. We'll set a time for us to meet and to go over on Zoom to go over the assignment. But basically, you're going to each select a book about artificial intelligence. There are a lot of them out there right now that is relevant, that you think is relevant for you, relevant for the class. You're going to read that book, and then you're going to make a video presentation kind of along the lines of this, maybe something that's a little bit more artistic, depending on what you want to do. That's between 8 and 10 minutes long, no longer than 10 minutes. That's part of the assignment, is trying to get it into that 10-minute window. You're also going to select a reading from your book to share with the class, and that will be built into the class as one of the assignments. And then last but not least, graduate students will write a short book review that they will turn into me. Okay, no peer review for that, just turn it into me. Okay. The end, there's a final. During finals week, there's a final. And actually, I have the wrong date here. I'm going to change this right now. It's an open book, open notes, opportunity for success final, meaning that as long as you do the discussions and do the other assignments, this should not make your grade go down, no matter what. If anything, if you do really well on it, it'll make your grade go up. It'll be due at the end of time this semester, which is April 29th at 2026 at 5 p.m. And it's a nice way to sort of round out the class. You'll see what I mean. Here's some fine print things regarding to the grade. In order to pass the course, you have to complete all the major writing assignments and the final, regardless of whatever grades you earned in the class. I had a student last semester who thought their final was optional, and it was a good thing that I was able to remind this person, because otherwise they would have failed. I had the grading scale as a percentage because there's different amounts of points for graduate students and undergraduates. And then there's other sort of fine print things here in terms of don't plagiarize and resources on campus and stuff like that, right? Let me turn to the Canvas page. This is what you see here. I'm just going to go back over to the syllabus here for a second. These are all the details over things that I was just talking about, okay? Read, and you can see. For example, this is what I mean in terms of the fine print about academic integrity and plagiarism. And this is what I mean by the campus resources. You know, there's a lot of different services available to you that you're really paying for, because through tuition and fees and stuff like that. The Writing Center, great opportunity. The Disability Resource Office, the stuff like the LGBT Resource Center, the Counseling and Psychology Center services. I mean, these are all really useful things. So if you're having some kind of issue in the class, but maybe beyond, I'll do what I can to try to help. But take advantage of these resources as well. Okay. Now let's take a look at the main heart of the thing here, which is the main page for the class. Now, my experience has been that students really want to stick to this to-do list. They really want to just point to this, okay? Now, at the beginning of the semester, this is probably pretty accurate. But here's the thing. Every time I move something around in terms of a reading or something like that, and there will be times at which we're going to move around readings and stuff because maybe EMU is closed because of weather, maybe because I realize that this reading needs to go there. You get the idea. Then this becomes inaccurate pretty quickly. It's really easy for me to screw up how I put these things here. Now, this part, on the other hand, the part that's this whole schedule over here, this is right. This is always right. Even if I make a mistake, this is what we're going to be doing. Okay, so pay attention to this. Don't pay attention to the do list. The first couple of weeks, from week 1 through pretty much week 4, are pretty locked in. Okay, these are all pretty much prepared. After week 4, I have a pretty good idea of where we're going to go, but there's going to be some changes. So, for example, week 5 here, we're going to start getting into AI as a tool for creating art and for creating writing and things like that. I have some other readings that I know I'm going to swap out for some of these right now. But this just to give you an idea of, roughly speaking, how this is going to go. Okay. But anyways, for week 5 or so, it's a little bit more abstract in terms of the assignments. But this part, for example, the first 2 contributions for the AI news and updates assignment, that's going to be due on February 18th. That's what that means. Okay. Um, we have winter break. And then after winter break, we're going to start peer review for the reflection essay for the AI writing assignment. So you'll need to have a draft of that essay ready by March 9th. You'll also see these progress reports for the AI research project. That's because you're going to need to have start working on that assignment on your own in terms of research and things like that before earlier in the semester as it was. Also, you'll see the contributions to the AI news and update project here. Those are due again also as the semester goes along with the website assignment and things like that. So these 2 assignments are kind of like you have to do a lot of this work on your own, and you have to be aware of that. Okay, here the semester goes along. You'll notice on week 12, this is where I'm shooting for the graduate student book review presentations, and again, that'll be part of the text of the class. We'll have the graduate students will have a video about their book, but then they'll also have a reading from that book that we'll talk about. Okay. And then the last 2 weeks of class really are primarily focused on finishing the remaining writing assignments. So you got to finish the last assignment for the AI news and updates project and write a report about that. You have a final update about your AI research question, which you've been working on, hopefully by this point. And we will do a peer review during the last week of class, and the AI research question essay is due the last day. You will get a grade from me on that last essay when you turn in the final, the final week. Okay. Okay, one last thing I wanted to share. I forgot to do this before. To watch this video, you clicked where it says class introductions here. That's not actually the video, but you're watching the video now. And you don't have to discuss anything here. If you have a question about the video, you click where it says reply and you ask the question. Okay. On the other hand, the required discussion is introduce yourself and tell us what you think about AI so far. So I have a little bit of introductory text here. You should read that. And when you're ready to introduce yourself and tell us who you are and tell a little bit about what you think of AI, you'll click where it says reply, and then you write reply right there. Okay. That's kind of the pattern for all these discussions as the semester goes along. Okay. Plenty of video, plenty of information. If you have any questions, ask them below. Be sure to post to the new introduce yourself post yet today too. And yeah, we'll get started. We'll see how this goes. Okay. I'll see you later.